This is Gold Rush, the Giga coaster that Knott's Berry Farm needs and deserves. And in the first of a 3-video project revolving around a Giga coaster potentially coming to Knott's Berry Farm, it's important for us to know and understand Chapter 1, the Giga-sized benefits of a coaster like this. Now don't worry, in the coming weeks you'll learn so much more about my thoughts on if we will ever see a Giga at Knott's Berry Farm and show you everything you need to know about the best no-limits creation project you've ever seen. But first, you should know all about the benefits and valid reasons why a Giga coaster would make the most sense for the one and only Knott's Berry Farm. Now for those of you who do not know much about Knott's Berry Farm and the Giga situation that they're in, we have to go way back to 1920. This was when Knott's Berry Farm first opened. And ever since then, the park has been a place for people all around the world to visit so they can take a step back in time. Roller coasters have always been a huge part of the Knott's Berry Farm experience, and throughout the history of the park, we have seen a total of 15 different coasters operate at the park, with 8 of them currently in operation, while 1 is standing but not operating, and the all-new Kid Family Coaster coming in 2024. It's no secret that over the years, the biggest draw for Knott's Berry Farm has been the rides and roller coasters. I mean, the facts don't lie. Just take a look at this. In 2002, Knott's Berry Farm opened Accelerator, which was the world's first intimate accelerator coaster. Then 2 short years later, Silver Bullet came to the farm, a massive B&M inverted coaster. You are talking about 2 huge investments all within a 3-year span. In 2007, we saw Knott's add a great family coaster with Sierra Sidewinder. Then, 1 year later, the park opened a brand new family launch coaster with the Pony Express. As America was recovering from the recession, it did take a few years for Knott's to get back on the coaster track with new additions. In 2013, we saw the park open Coast Rider, the brand new mock Wild Mouse coaster, which also happened to be the 3rd straight family coaster come to Knott's. But that changed in 2018 when Knott's Berry Farm debuted Hang Time, their massive new Gerstlauer Infinity coaster that features 5 inversions. And while fans of Knott's have had to wait for what seems like forever for their next major coaster, there have been a ton of rumors swirling around the park for the last 2 years regarding a Giga coaster. There were even leaked blueprints going around of this Giga for Knott's Berry Farm, and those blueprints were not fake, and more on that in Chapter 3, which tells us that Knott's is showing interest in adding a Giga roller coaster. But the big question is, would a Giga make sense for Knott's Berry Farm as their next major coaster? Here are 5 reasons why a Giga does make the most sense for Knott's Berry Farm. Number 1, reliability. When 2 out of your 3 most popular coasters suffer from a lot of downtime, and in case you don't know, I'm talking about Accelerator and Hang Time. Adding a reliable coaster to the mix needs to be a top priority for Knott's Berry Farm. And since Knott's is one of the most popular theme parks in the world, it only makes sense. Especially when their last major addition, Hang Time, has been very popular among park guests, but the reliability of the coaster is its biggest flaw. In between other B&M Giga coasters, you hardly hear about Orion, Fury 325, and Leviathan down for extended periods of time, with the exception of the Fury support issue. With over 5 million people each year visiting Knott's Berry Farm, that's a lot of people experiencing all the rides and attractions that the park offers. And when a major coaster or 2 is down for maintenance, it makes for a less positive experience coming from park visitors, which means they're not going to stay in the park as long, and they're definitely not going to be spending as much money. And the facts are there to support this. By adding a new record-breaking Giga, we would see a very nice increase in attendance for Knott's Berry Farm. More so than, let's say, a brand new Zamperla multi-launch coaster or a B&M wing coaster. It goes back to the saying, if you build something great, they will come. And there is no better coaster to add than the Giga coaster, because this type of ride would attract the most buzz and bring in people from all over the world to come ride this mega attraction. Knott's Berry Farm would also get what they paid for, a high-speed coaster that people would travel all around the world to come ride. With so many people visiting the farm throughout the year and Knott's Scary Farm, number 2 is a no-brainer, and that is capacity. While I really do love hang time, it was a puzzling move to make in my opinion when it comes to capacity. The Gerstlauer Infinity Coaster offers 3 trains that each hold 16 riders, which really isn't horrible, but for a park like Knott's, it should be better. Now, if you want to talk about something really strange, over the last 20 years, it appears that Knott's doesn't seem to care all that much about capacity. Silver Bullet, the park's underrated B&M inverted coaster, opened in 2004. This is the most popular steel coaster in the park among the GP, and it offers the best capacity for any coaster at the farm. Now, to really blow your mind, Silver Bullet can only run with 2 trains, which makes hang time the only thrill coaster that you can find at the park that offers more than 2 train operations. That is ridiculous, especially for a park that has the caliber that Knott's Berry Farm has. So a high-capacity B&M coaster that offers 3 trains is much more appealing for the park. Number 3, marketability. Whenever a park adds a Giga, you just know there's a special buzz around that park. We've seen it with Millennium Force in 2000, and then Intimidator 305 in 2010, Leviathan in 2012, Fury 325 in 2015, and Orion in 2020. Knott's Berry Farm has an opportunity to add the tallest full-circuit coaster west of the Mississippi, and one that would become the best along the West Coast as well. A new record-breaking Giga would drive people to the park, especially the world's best themed Giga. And more on that coming up in Chapter 2, so don't miss out on that, because you will love learning all about Gold Rush, Knott's Berry Farm's Giga coaster that will shatter all the records. So be sure to give this video a like. That is by far the best way you can help support the channel, and I hope that you consider becoming the newest Theme Park Predictions subscriber. Now, another benefit of adding a coaster like Gold Rush is Knott's would see a huge increase in fast lane sales. This is the 4th benefit of adding the world's largest Giga coaster to Knott's Berry Farm. And to give you an example, if the average cost of a fast lane at Knott's Berry Farm is only $75, and the park would sell an average of $300 per day, that is over $22,000 in profit each day. Again, if we're talking about averages. And with some simple math, since Knott's Berry Farm is open 365 days a year, Gold Rush would help rake in over $8 million worth of fast lane profits each year. Now, of course, there are days when the fast lane is not needed and people don't buy it. But there are a lot more busy days at Knott's than there are less busy days. And when it is busy, they would for sure sell more than just 300 fast lanes each day. For some reason or another, Knott's doesn't sell a ton of fast lanes, and half the time, they don't even market the add-on premium experience, which is a puzzling move. This is something that Gold Rush would change for the better, because Knott's would sell so many more fast lanes per day just due to this one investment. And for the 5th reason why a Giga makes sense at Knott's Berry Farm is guest satisfaction. People visit Knott's Berry Farm for the environment, the attractions, and roller coasters, and it's a guarantee that people would love seeing Gold Rush as they're walking up to the front gate of Knott's Berry Farm or swinging by to grab some of their famous fried chicken. Gold Rush would become the best, but most importantly, the most popular ride in the history of Knott's Berry Farm, not to mention the most re-rideable one as well. Though, it would be hard for Gold Rush to beat Windjammers in that department. And if you're like me and you've been on Windjammers, then you're definitely going to get that joke. Having Carowinds as my home park and visiting around 75 times a year, the park guests really do love Fury 325. Even if they're scared to ride it or they're not tall enough. Walking into Carowinds and having the 325-foot tall Giga interact with the entrance walkways and plaza really creates a special buzz for Carowinds. Walking up, you know you're in for a great day before you're even inside the park. Now for a really quick bonus reason why a Giga makes sense at Knott's is this ride right here is the perfect style of coaster to draw a lot of the buzz away from Universal Studios Hollywood once they open up their brand new mega intimate multi-launch Fast and Furious coaster. If there is one roller coaster out there that checks off all the boxes for Knott's Berry Farm, then a Giga is that coaster. From a business perspective, a return on investment perspective, and a guest perspective. Coming up in Chapter 2, I share with you all the juicy details of Gold Rush, Knott's Berry Farm's new record-breaking Giga coaster. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on this video. So what do you think about the reasons that I mentioned, and are there any more that you would add? Be sure to let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and of course, keep riding coasters.